So, welcome, Wendy. Would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yeah, Susan, it's great to see you, first of all, with that snowy background, as I am in a sunny Los Angeles right now. Lucky for me.
Lucky
So,
for you. Yep.
I'm an executive career coach. I worked in the film industry for 20 years before becoming a career coach, and it was actually my own journey through a very challenging job loss that were the origin stories for me to be doing what I do now. And I love that I get to be a part of people at a very vulnerable moment in their lives and help move them along on their journeys.
Mhm. The moment of transformation. It typically starts with something that is a challenge for us, doesn't it?
I think many coaches become coaches springing from their own experience, and that certainly was mine. And it gives me a depth of understanding because I've lived it.
Mm,
And now, having coached over 1,500 people, I understand the dynamics, but also the emotional experience.
mm. Thank you. And this session, our fireside chat, is informal, but what we want to do is just reflect over 2025, take a look back, and then think about the things that stand out for us through that. And so the first thing I'm going to be curious about is, have you witnessed any kind of meaningful moments where you've observed human connection with technology in the context of coaching?
Well, you and I have talked about this many times before. I have a love-hate relationship with AI. I've been an early adopter of technology since I can remember, and AI is no exception. I use it multiple times every day, a variety of platforms. I've tested them all. And so I have trepidation because of my own experience of sometimes AI getting it wrong. But I had a good experience recently, something that was very useful for me
Hmm.
that I'll share with you. So, as I said, I'm an executive career coach. I work with people who are in some kind of career transition. And right now, I'm working with someone who was in a current job, currently employed, but he was not happy and interviewing with another company. And he was optimistic that he was about to get an offer. But as a prelude to the offer, the company said they want him to fill out a new job application because there was a clerical error in the first one. So he got in touch with me with some urgency because in between when he first interviewed with them and when they were asking him to fill out this new job application, he got laid off because of a reduction of force. So he was very nervous about how to fill out this new application and whether or not it would raise a flag to the hiring manager and the recruiter that perhaps he wasn't being honest about his employment situation. So him and I, we talked about it. And certainly as an ICF accredited coach, I don't put my thumb on the scale. I kind of facilitated questions to see what he wanted to do. And he came to a conclusion about how he wanted to handle the situation. So this is more after the call. I consulted AI to see what its take would be on this situation. And I felt good that it verified how I felt he should handle it and how he decided to handle it. So it was good validation, and in that case, it was a really positive experience.
Oh, that's really good. And thank you for sharing. But I'm also curious, is there anything about the hate side that you might want to share with our viewers?
Well, the hate is that AI gets things wrong. And not everyone has that understanding of what it is, how it's predicting what words are going to come next rather than this deep understanding. At least where I see AI is at the moment. Of course, it's going to grow and who knows, take over. But for the moment, I find an error rate of 30% at least. And
Mm,
the particularly where it comes to coaching and the vulnerability that people have, and certainly my clients who are vulnerable after a job loss or who are wounded and just searching for answers, particularly if the search has been going on for a long time, that they might over rely on it. And so when it gets things wrong, I want to make sure that my clients understand that, and particularly in the ways that it intersects with the deep ethical guardrails that we have in ICF that governs how we are as coaches from a trust, presence, and ethical standard points of view.
Mm. And I think actually, I don't recall you mentioning it at the beginning, but you are part of our ICF AI Council. And I think in that group, in the council, I think it's inherent within the work that we do there that we look deeper into these areas just to understand how might we help people with that 30% error rate, for instance, that's not good enough, and therefore how might we help raise the bar on those with the models that are being used. And I think there's a difference between the generic large language models or AIs and the ones that are being built specifically in the coaching profession, the AI providers that are building within our space.
Well, first of all, let me say I am a proud member of ICF as it sets the gold standard for the field. And I was honored to be a part of this inaugural AI Advisory Council because it's so important, because obviously it's all around us. Our clients are using it. And so we have to be fluent for that reason. And just to be able to help set the guardrails because people are so vulnerable and relying on it. And how do we, what's at the essence to
Mm,
make it really help the people that we work with and
mm.
coach?
No, I appreciate your involvement and those critical conversations that we are starting to have, because it really is just at the start of the council and the coalition. Um, as we experiment and learn with AI and figuring out how either we want to make it part of our practice or how we might want to make it part of our lives, what are the principles that guide us in terms of keeping the AI human-centered, ethical, and inclusive? You mentioned some of the things there in terms of standards and code of ethics, but is there more that we should be considering when we think about human-centered AI?
Well, back to my hate-love relationship. And in addition to the error rate, it's also that in AI's current iteration, it doesn't learn in the way that we understand learning. And again, this becomes really critical in a coaching relationship. So, because I work with it a lot and I do a lot of writing, I've created a whole style guide around my voice, words that I don't want AI to use, sort of AI slop words, in my opinion, like navigate and align. And so I have this style guide, and AI ignores it. So in the course of not even a prior conversation, but from one answer to the next, it uses those words. And so I think about that in a coaching relationship. For example, if someone is letting a coach understand what words trigger them and how they're able to stay vulnerable and open, and you're dealing with AI that's ignoring that, that is so impactful. And so to me, that's one of the areas that ICF has such an opportunity to help shape the guardrails.
Mm. And I think also there's a piece in there around how might we use the generic AI tools by prompt engineering, better ways of prompting, better ways of ensuring that you work with the kind of patterns that it understands in order that you put those guardrails into the prompts or into the projects that you're using within AI.
Now, can you explain that a little bit more to me?
Yes, so when we were at Converge, James Varnum, who I did some practical AI sessions with, advocated for a framework, a prompt engineering framework he's devised called RAT Feet, which the RAT Feet is an acronym for all these different parts of the prompt that you need to put together as the kind of the initial brief that you give AI so that it understands for that thread or for that project what the rules are, the rules of engagement for that AI project or chat theme. So it's yes, the prompt engineering that helps the human work well with the AI in a way that the AI can understand what you're expecting of it and how it can behave, or how it's not behavior, it's just the delivery that it's looking for, or the outcomes.
Also, because AI is trained on, you understand this more technically than I do, but it's when it gives answers that are outdated because the training that it got was maybe from years ago, or it's giving you generic answers because it's based on patterns. Again, that's another thing that's so detrimental in a coaching relationship that demands that presence. So, what's the workaround for that?
Um, I guess the thing is there's a couple of things that has come up in this conversation that I think is interesting. So behavior, for instance, the AI, you talked about it in the context of learning, and therefore it doesn't understand necessarily how humans learn or what behaviors we display, and it's not necessarily going to do that unless we train it to do that. Um, and it really is code. I mean, it's maths, it's pattern recognition, so it's a very kind of logical, systematic way of approaching a problem. And I guess our human expectations of it are that it does understand how we learn, how we behave, how we experience things, but of course it doesn't. And so we've got to put those things into it and that's what the prompt engineering is doing, is giving those guardrails to the AIs in a way that it can interpret it effectively to give us back what we're looking for.
Yeah, I guess the just that whole idea of generic, and this is something I experience with writing when I'm having an exchange, that it's scraping these patterns of what has happened before. And again, that just doesn't leave room for what is happening now. It's just relying on old behavior. And I know in the entertainment industry where people, there's just all this tension, like there is in every industry, about is AI going to take over script writing or directing or squeezing the creative process out. And if it does, it's just going to be regurgitating what's already existed about, as opposed to creating anything new.
My personal view I don't think it is going to take over the jobs of creatives for sure. And I don't think it's not something that we in the coaching profession should worry about it taking our jobs. It's a different dynamic. It's now about how does the opportunity with AI elevate what we can do as a human and what actually differentiates us as a human, and to do more of that and to celebrate more of that and to find a way to partner with AI. Um, yeah, I think that's probably where I would go. And therefore, if that is the opportunity that we have now, how do we embrace that? And how might ICF help in that navigate? Oh, see, I've used the word that you don't want AI to use. Now I feel bad. So
Well, the thing about navigate, the reason why it's used particularly with coaches is because it's a word we use a lot, right?
mm, mm.
So, and now every once in a while when I feel like AI is actually alert and I use the word, it says you're using a word that's not supposed to be used. So
That's interesting.
sometimes my hand gets slapped.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, ICF, it just has such a critical role to play right now
Mm,
in helping set these standards and
mm.
set these standards to help guide tech companies that are designing these models, but also educating coaches on how we can use it. And again, I'm not concerned that it's going to take over. I just, in my own experience of using it when I'm writing, I see that it can't replicate my voice and I've got to do it myself. So I feel the more I use it, I feel less concerned about that. But
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's
yeah,
the same for me. It's the more that you use it, the more you understand the place it can play, but then it liberates you as a person, I think.
yeah, how does it liberate you?
Well, I think that uh, for me, in terms of the areas that, like if I think about working in an organization before, you've typically been in a job role that has a limitation, right? Your role is to do this within this swim lane. But now with AI, I can explore, well, what might, I don't know, let's say enterprise architecture, a principal architect, how might they consider these things? And what's the overlap between how I might be thinking about something and how they might, or an engineer, for instance? You can have those roles present within your work, and therefore it liberates me because now I'm starting to see things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of before. And I can make different connections that actually may be more valuable in this moment. And I'm doing it all without having those eight people around the table.
Mm,
Not to
okay.
say it's right, it's just that it helps you formulate a perspective that perhaps you may not have had access to before.
Long as you are skeptical and verify.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is, yeah, you absolutely need to do that. But then what it does is it preps you up for that conversation with a principal engineer if that's what you're looking to do, is like, it's a bit like searching your things before you go to the doctor. The doctor's never going to like the fact that you've asked AI for a diagnosis. That's not going to go well with your physician, I would imagine.
Yeah, I had a client whose parent was unfortunately having serious health issues, and he was consulting. This was about 6 months ago, and he was consulting AI at the end of every day in the hospital and putting the input of what the doctors were telling him, and then look again in that vulnerability of looking for answers is
Mhm.
where I think some of the danger lies, or how we need to be very alert as we're working with
Yeah. Actually,
clients.
that's a good point in that I advocate for people to use AI from a place where they have a level of expertise so that
Mm.
you're you are able to then use your critical thinking to establish what responses you're getting back from AI. So, I think I used it in a humorous way there, but looking for to educate yourself on the diagnosis, that's not a good use of AI in terms of keeping you safe and the ethical and responsible use of it.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good point of view.
Yeah. So if you imagine one shift that could most positively shape the next chapter of coaching, what would that be?
I- I've alluded to some of this already, but it's this dual platform of educating coaches because coaches need to be fluent, not only as a way to just have a positive impact on our own practice, whether it's admin tools or other ways that it can be useful, but also to meet clients where they are since they're going to be using it. So that fluency is really important. And I think ICF has a great role in the fear factor, and you speak to a wider range of coaches than I do, but and again, I'm not someone who's afraid of it. I'm looking at it with open eyes, but I think there's a real gap between coaches' fluency, and to elevate that would be a really great shift.
Yeah, I agree. And when I look at the global coaching study, 81% of the coaches that were involved in that survey expect that there will be a fundamental or a seismic shift in the coaching profession as a consequence of AI by 2030. So that's not that far away. So it is the number one force that's really changing or challenging what our understanding of the coaching profession is.
Do you think there's going to be a seismic shift? I think I'm in the 20% of not thinking there's going to be a seismic. I guess I see it on the periphery of tasks as opposed to the essential dynamic that is at the core of coaching, which is
Well, I
trust
think
and
I would
presence.
agree with you on the you're right. The human coaching is inherently human. I don't think those things will change. But the profession, there's a lot of things around the profession that are about, I don't know, analytics, data, administration. And I think all of those things will be impacted by AI in ways that we maybe don't fully understand at the moment or don't fully imagine. But all of the insights that you can get now around, or if we leveraged AI over these next 4 years to really provide insights about how the coach's behavior and the coach's um, whatever their what they bring to the coaching interaction, how that impacts the client's outcomes. If we had better insights around all of that, I think that could have the potential to do a majority or a impactful change to the industry.
So if I'm hearing you right, what that would do would then impact ICF's core competencies, for example, or
It it could do.
what would be the different levels of coaches,
Well,
right?
we cut, yeah,
Standard.
and yes, and I guess we constantly review our standards as the world evolves around us, and I think this is no different. I think there is going, you know, we will learn more about the dynamics of the human coach relationship. And I hate saying human coach, but the coach with their client will better understand those interactions, and we could have the insights. We could have the different data points that helps us understand how do we optimize that for the better outcomes for the client. And then it could mean that there are some changes to the way that we think about the levels today. Maybe the levels go up. Who knows?
Well, I've been on a few ICF task forces where we're reviewing the core competencies, and it's been an unbelievably detailed, painstaking process of just describing, documenting our experiences with clients and what worked and what didn't, and days of just poring over this and again documenting. And I guess I hadn't thought that in this way, maybe AI could be useful in helping to gather all that
I
data and
think so.
then
Mm.
understanding what core competencies really impact the client in the best positive way.
Yeah, I do. That's the space I think where AI I could imagine it helping that process be more effective or efficient in the way that it might automate or gather the data better than we've been able to do it before, perhaps. And in that, we may discover patterns. We may discover that actually three of the behavioral anchors are the ones that always get the outcomes that the client needs. I'm obviously making that up because I don't know how it might be useful, but I think it is in those areas where AI excels. It's pattern recognition, doing it at scale, doing it across a whole range of data sets that it then can yield patterns that we don't yet see. So,
Well, I've heard from coaches that they're, particularly some of the new coaches that I've worked with as a mentor, that they love that it can transcribe the session, right? To take notes. And I have to say that that's one place where, and I don't think of myself as an old-fashioned person, but I'm very analog and I take notes during every call, handwritten notes. I have notebooks, three-ring binders. And for me, that I wouldn't want that being taken away from me because part of my note taking is helping me focus and remember. And having a machine do that's very uninteresting to me. But I know that there are a lot of coaches who really are eager for that.
I think one of the other opportunities with AI is it does allow personalization or contextual use that you pick. So I think each coach or each practice can decide how does it want to leverage AI that relates to and is bespoke to your way of working or the practice's way of working. So I think again that personalization is a great opportunity. There doesn't have to be one size fits all, or everyone does the same thing.
Yeah, well, this would, I'm sure, be something you're doing at ICF already is just interviewing coaches and finding out what they're finding is the most useful
Mm,
use of
mm.
AI.
Yeah, and the more that we can move people away from worrying about it to actually engaging with it, the more we can have interesting conversations about, well, what works for you?
You know, I've also heard coaches who like the idea of using it, having clients connect with AI in between sessions,
Mhm.
which again is something that doesn't resonate with me exactly, but I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and there are specific tools out there that will help let coaches create their own versions of what that looks like. So you can create your own role plays for people to use in between sessions based on your practice. So I think there's exciting things. Yes, I'm hopeful and excited about next year.
Great.
How about you?
Yeah, I want to see it improve in some of the ways that um, drive me crazy about it. And as you know, Susan, I have this ongoing list of when AI gets it wrong. And this is sort of my funniest list, which is excuses it gives me when it gets things wrong. And so I'm eager to see it elevated to the next iteration that's going to be better in terms of learning and paying attention and remembering.
I also see the difference between those AI models, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, etc., and the things that are built specifically for the coaching profession. I think we'll start to see more of a differentiation between that. And I hope that if the AI providers are building in a way that's built on our code of ethics and the AI standards and framework, then I think that gives us a level of assurances, and hopefully we can address those things that you're finding as your hate bucket.
Great. I'm hopeful and I appreciate your hopefulness and I'm going to let you hold that space for me.
Perfect, I'll do that. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Wendy, and I wish you a wonderful festive season.
Stay warm.
Yeah, that'll be a challenge here.
All
Okay,
right.
bye
Take
for now.
care.